What's happening? What's happening out there, good people? It's your man Cam. Just jumping back on here. I want to talk about the news today as far as what this president is planning on trying to do, in which that is close the Department of Education. Defund it and close it completely down. And my thoughts on that are that it could be positive, it could be a negative. We don't know for sure. But in the long run, I see what his objective is. This leader of this country, so-called leader, because he's not a real leader, and the people that follow him are people that have a huge lack of education, And I say that to kind of back up my thoughts on why he's closing the Department of Education. It's not that people aren't getting quality education. You do have schools that, by the standards of each county or what have you, that are underperforming. But at the same time, a lot of these schools are underperforming because of the area that these schools are in. It's not that the teachers aren't trying to teach these children. It's just that when you have children that are growing up in high crime areas, their thought processes are different than most children who are growing up in a more civil environment. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot of highly educated people that have come from high crime areas and or from broken homes or single parent homes, things of that nature. So we can't use that as a full excuse, but just from my personal experience, I know that when you come from an environment that is unstable, when you have police chases and shootouts in your neighborhood, choppers flying over your neighborhood all the time, the way that we think when we're in school is differently. We're on edge as well. And so you see a lot of us getting into fights or arguing back and forth with the teacher. And it's not that we don't want to learn. It's not that we can't be educated. It's just the environments that we come from has a stronghold on us to the point where education is not as important when it comes down to having to be able to survive day to day. And I say that from personal experience, like I say, because, and not to get into depth, I've been shot at several times. I actually was grazed by 22 3 times. The guy was trying to shoot me. So we're in survival mode. Even when we're at school, we're in survival mode. We're looking over our shoulders. We're thinking that everybody around us may be out to get us. And so when you think like that, it makes it hard for you to concentrate and want to get an education. Even though you have a lot of people that come from these environments, once again, that have made it out and they got their education because they were determined to do so. But back to my initial reason for coming on here is that Trump is doing what he's doing to the Department of Education in order to keep the lack of educated people to he wants to have that lack of educated people. He wants to keep the people that are getting educations and actually realize what he's saying and what his administration is doing is completely wrong. And that comes from, like I say, having some form of education. And they want to keep people uneducated because, once again, the less education you have, the more lies you can be told, and there's a higher probability that you will believe the lies because you have no knowledge of anything for the most part. And so that's what they're after. They've even said it on several occasions. They didn't use the term educated or uneducated. They used the term woke, that we need less woke people in this society. So literally they want people to walk around with their eyes closed and not being able to see the reality of situations in order for them to rule over you and tell you that left is right and right is left, and you believe it. And they also are doing this to start with the younger generation as far as cutting their education. And so once they start to grow of age and they've been filled with all of this information that was not truthful, they walk around living a life full of lies. And that's what they're after. That's what these countries that have dictators in office or ruling over them, that's what they've done. They've cut the education. They only give a small few the access to education as far as some of these countries. Now, China, it's kind of the same thing, to where I was told that they take a test. And depending on what you score on this test will depend on whether or not you go to school or you go to a trade school and learn a trade. But it's still a controlling mechanism. Some people say that's a good thing. I personally don't think that that's a good thing. I think that everybody deserves the option of whether they want to take a trade in life or whether they want to go the traditional route and go to college and all these other things. They shouldn't be forced down one path or the other. But that's neither here or there when it comes down to us in China. But at the same time, this is the direction that this, once again, I call him a so-called president, a so-called leader, is trying to push this country in. I look at it like this. If you cannot learn, for the most part, if you cannot sit in a classroom and get a traditional education, it's just as difficult, if not more difficult, to learn a trade, because you still have to be able to take in the information that you're being given, and then as well you have to be able to use that information in order to perform the task that that trade consists of. So education, no matter how they want to grade it, is a necessity, no matter what direction you're going in. Like I said, whether it's a trade or whether you're going to a normal private college or community college, whatever it is, you have to be able to retain the information that you are being taught. And that starts at an early age. And don't get me wrong, most children have a short attention span. But the more that we can teach our children patience, and it starts at home. We can't expect a school teacher to teach our children certain things when they only have a certain amount of time each day with these children, and they're also trying to teach these children other things. So a lot of this stuff has to start at home as well. But this so-called leader is trying to limit the amount of education that the children receive in this country so that he can control them even more. And that's what his objective is, y'all. And it's an obvious thing. And then he takes the wife of a wrestling CEO or whatever this guy is, and puts her into a position only as a face. She's not calling any shots. She's not making any decisions, because anybody with any common sense would see that this lady is far from qualified to be in the position that she's in. This lady is an entertainer, and I've said it on numerous recordings that everything surrounding this so-called president is based off of entertainment. And so the more that he can entertain you guys and get people to laugh and giggle at the lies and the manipulative tactics that he's using in order to program y'all to see things the way that he sees things, then that's what he's going to do. And he's using, like I say, entertainment to do so. I mean, it's obvious. Look at the Tesla guy. He's an entertainer. He's been on all kinds of interviews and people laughing and giggling with him and people feeling important because they're rubbing shoulders with a billionaire and the so-called richest person in the earth, so to speak. When it comes down to money, they feel like they are just as important because they get to rub shoulders with them, not realizing that just because you have $200 billion or whatever it is doesn't make you that smart of a person, doesn't make you that good of a business person. A lot of these people, and it's been proven time and time again from the past, that a lot of these ideas that have now become reality were stolen. These people have taken other people's ideas who did not have the money or did not have the resources in order to put them into action or didn't know what steps to take. And because they had the money at the time to be able to start the process, then that's what they do. And they steal these ideas and these thoughts from other people who did not have everything that it took in order to take whatever that idea is to the next level. And like I said, back to this woke thing, why would anyone not want somebody to be aware? That's what woke is. Woke has nothing to do with homosexuality and all this other stuff that they're trying to combine it with. Woke truly means being aware of what you're being told and know fact from fiction. And they don't want you to know that. And they're saying it and not hiding it at all. He literally said it's too many woke people in this country. They want people to be mentally enslaved. I mean, think about it. This Tesla dude is the same person that is working on some type of technology that is implemented into your brain. Come on, y'all. Let's start putting the facts together and stop playing these grab ass games. And let's be adults about what's going on around us and not let these children, these teenagers, and these young-minded adults think that this technology that this idiot is coming up with is something that's going to be of value to us. If someone implements a chip into your brain, they literally have control over your entire body. With a push of a button, he could more than likely make you do or make you think what they want you to do and think. That's why he's saying this society is too woke. Just wait, y'all. There is going to come a day and time, as long as these two guys are allowed to continue to go on the path that they're going on. Because if all of this gets shut down, glory be to God, I hope that it does, because all they're doing is trying to destroy everything. And not just destroy what America has become, they're trying to destroy society as a whole. But back to what I was saying, give it time. As if they're allowed to continue on what they're doing, give it time. This Tesla guy is going to come out and tell you guys, well, y'all need to get this chip and put it in your, and you can put it in your brain or put it somewhere in your body. He's going to be pushing that idea in order to have more control over the simple-minded people that don't want to think for themselves and don't want to have control over what their body does. See, a lot of people look at technology as a great thing. Technology has been good in some aspects, but in a lot of cases, technology has been a corruptive tool in society. You know, there was an argument I was listening to over the radio, or a conversation. I don't really want to call it an argument. And they were talking about cell phones and should children be allowed to use cell phones in schools and have access to them in case of emergencies and all these kind of things. And then the older gentleman, in which we're all guilty of it once we start to reach a certain age, got onto the radio station and was saying how, well, when I was a child, we didn't have phones and we were able to get by. Yeah, but that's the thing. A lot of stuff, even in his childhood, people prior to him did not have, and they were able to continue on in life. But see, the point I'm trying to make is that this technology is being implemented and it's corrupting our minds to the point where we want to use what we didn't have and what they have now as an example on why they shouldn't have it now. But we all use cell phones. We all take advantage of this technology. But what I'm saying is it's just like another tactic, and it's such a small, precision-like laser point that they put through it to the extent of it's separating us. The thought of should children be able to have access to their cell phones in schools is causing a division between people. Do you see my point? Everything that they're implementing, that's what makes technology negative. Certain things about technology just makes it negative. Television, it makes it negative because of certain things they portray on television, and people try to live their lives like that, or they think that this stuff is reality, and so they try and duplicate what they see on the television. Social media and these challenges that they were doing on whatever, TikTok or whoever it was, YouTube, I don't know, but these challenges where people are setting themselves on fire and doing dumb stuff, and it's all because of technology, y'all. So we don't need to be having arguments on such small, minor things as far as technology, because we all use it. We shouldn't let that separate us as a people, because we have enough things going on that's separating us now, and they're a lot more important. We should be focusing on what this so-called president is doing more so than worrying about cell phones in schools. You know, we should be worrying about what is going to happen to this society as a whole if we keep going down this route. You know, it was one guy that got on the radio saying how, who cares about DEI? And this was a black guy. Who cares about DEI? We should be focusing more on the black community and taking our money and building more black businesses and these other things. To the extent of, like I said, we can make, and not saying he's lying, but people can make a lie out to sound like the truth, as long as you dress it up a certain way. You see what I'm saying? And so, to a certain extent, yeah, he's making sense. But there are black businesses out here. And so the lady asked him, well, what black businesses do you support? Well, I can't think of none at this point in time, meaning that he does not support any black businesses either. So we have to try our best to live by what we preach as well. But not only that, the DEI thing, where he was saying, well, we should forget about it. But he's not realizing that DEI bill, or whatever you call it, helped a lot of black people get to a certain point, and not just black people, but women as well, to be able to get to a certain point in this society. And in all honesty, percentage-wise, it's not a whole lot of people that this bill actually helped in an extent, but it did help a certain people in the black community as well as the women to be able to propel their careers or go further than what they would have been able to. Because the way that Trump tries to play it out is that it's a bill that was put out there to fight against the scripture, just for black people to get into a position. This is what he wants to say. And white people are being discriminated against and not being allowed to get these jobs, in which we all know who have worked in corporate, any type of corporate business or any business in general, and we've seen it to where majority of your bosses and managers are white. It's rare that you actually have a black manager and or a woman manager in positions. In most cases, because when I was in the car business, I had one so-called black manager, and I say so-called because he was actually the assistant, and he did everything that I did as far as his job duties. So he really wasn't a manager, but they gave him that title to make him feel a certain way, and so that the true manager didn't have to do his job and sit on his behind and basically bark out orders to the assistant, so-called assistant, and then the assistant brings information to us. But I only say that because at the time that bill was active, meaning that it really didn't change majority of society either, because a lot of these businesses did what they wanted to do and they did it how they wanted to do it. But at the same time, if you are discriminated against or were discriminated against, you could go to court and fight it because of that bill. But with them completely eradicating that bill, now you don't even have a leg to stand on, even if you are discriminated against because of your race and or because of your gender. So in the long run, like I said, this so-called leader is slowly trying to destroy and turn this society back into a white man's society. Because, I mean, he come out, and like I said, he's an entertainer. He knows what to say in order to convince the ignorant people out here to believe what he's saying is truth. He come out at some of his rallies playing It's a Man's World. Now, a true man and a true person who has their eyes open and sees what's going on would have saw the fact that he was only using that James Brown song to convince black men and also other men, but majority the black men, that he was the one to vote for, and that Mrs. Harris did not have what it took in order to run this country, in which now is water under the bridge. We can't go back. But I'm just saying these things so that your eyes can be open and you can see the tactics that this guy uses in order to convince people. He even said it himself, that he used a lot of sarcasm and sarcastic phrases and things in order to manipulate people. That he said it himself. Google Trump saying that he uses, or he was just being sarcastic about certain things that he was saying when he was running for office again. Just Google it. It's out there. But y'all, it's time for y'all to just wake up, man. And I know it's not much we can do right now. Maybe somebody will come up with a plan or an idea that we can put into action in order to fight against the things that this guy's doing. He's trying to basically turn people against the judicial system. And I'm not saying that the judicial system is perfect, but at the same time, that system was put in order to keep everybody in place, so to speak. Even the president, and at this point, the so-called president. But if he can get to the point where he can overthrow the judicial system, then literally he can walk right into that door of becoming a dictator. And what this richest person in the world has to realize that, yeah, you may be the richest single person in the world, but you don't have more money than what is in the world, so to speak, or that the people have. So he can be taken down. He's only one person. When you start getting millions of people coming together and putting their resources together, then it makes what that one person has looks like pennies. And that's what's going to have to occur, y'all, because once again, people are only looking at it from one direction and not viewing the whole picture to realize that, once again, he's only one person. He can have a team of killers with him too. But when you got millions of people, that team of killers that he has is not going to be enough. Those billions of dollars that he has is not going to be enough. But if he can convince y'all, and like I said, it's coming, to get this chip, because it's coming, y'all just wait for it. And you heard it here. The few people that listen to what I got to say, it's coming, y'all. But hey, y'all be cool out there. And I just want to say my little piece on that little bit there. And I'll talk to y'all soon.